Okay, guys, welcome back. We'll work on the product and stock that we were doing before you left for reading week, right? So it's a little old, so I'll quickly go through the product and then we'll start the new. So noisy. We've been doing this for a couple of days now. Right, so the aim again, to write more code, to understand more classes in Java, to look at new methods that you haven't done before. And of course, we wrote an equals to also, and I'll use it today, not try to, I'll use it today. Right, and then I'm hoping that once this is done, then I can give you your third assignment, right, which will be on the new things you've learned. Of course, is the unit J testing. That's something you've learned new. And let's see, because we are going to do a little new stuff in this code. So hopefully you'll be able to use it in your testing. Like you should be able to test it. Right, the card game, I think by next early week we should have it back. Okay, I'm kind of waiting for tomorrow also for the withdrawal date also, so I'm marking it and I'll kind of categorize it. Some games did not run at all, and it's kind of difficult to find where you went wrong. Like, it's not easy for me to fix your games. I can do that. It will take me a lot of time, and I can do that because there were a few games that are not running. So if your code is good, that's where you will get marks. But of course, you won't get marks that the game plays. Right? You see what I mean? So I create categories as to how I've asked you. I said, please write good and efficient code. I said, please do commenting. Of course, the game should run. It has to have a complexity level. So I'll kind of group it that way because I've seen so much variance in that assignment just because it's not something to be done that I said. It was dependent upon you. I have to kind of mark it accordingly. Okay. So I'm working on it. You will have it, hopefully, as I said, by next week. Okay. And I will try to make the assignment this weekend and depending upon time, see if it has to be done in class or I can just let you do it. We'll see that also. Something should come up by early next week. Okay, so I'll open what we were working on, and as I said, I'll quickly go through it. So there's nothing much to be done to use JUnit testing in NetBeans, right? All you have to do is you click on a class, and you can always go right-click and then say under Tools, you should have create and update test. So you don't have to add anything, but yes, I did add the JCO coverage tool because that helps me to kind of check that I have tested all my methods and all their branches also, because you could be having an if in it. You know what I mean? Like exception throwing everything. So what I'm expecting from you when you do your assignment on unit testing is, I simply take your code and I run it through JCO coverage and run it. So if everything is green, the tests are passing or failing depending upon what you're doing, of course. And you've covered everything. All methods have been tested. Everything in each method has been tested. You can assume, oh, your works. You know what I mean? So you have that tool to test that. Did you test every method of your class? So that JCO coverage is a good tool to double check that you haven't missed any. But for NetBeans, it does come with unit testing. All you have to do is right click and create test. And it's easy. At least you don't have to write. There's a skeleton there, if nothing else. It fills up, but it may not be complete. You may have to, for the same method, write more than one test methods. Okay. So I'll just so that you know. And again, if you're using anything else, if you're using any other IDE, it shouldn't matter. All I'll ask from you is your class, the test class. So it shouldn't matter how you do it. Okay, but JCO coverage, I don't know how to do it in other IDEs, but JCO coverage allows you to test that you have tested your code completely. So that way you can go wrong. Okay, how you test it, of course, you will have to write the code for it. Okay, all that is on Blackboard. I've put it on Blackboard in case you want to refer to it. And sometimes a section is a little different from the other. Students ask me something extra. Either way, I teach 2 sections. So I would recommend that you always download both and just kind of quickly browse to see if there is anything different in the other section. Because if a student is asking me specifically for something else, I'll definitely do it, right? And I may not do it in another section. So whatever it's always good to see it. Okay, so I'll open up what we were working on. You already know how to write your own exception classes, so mine was not very big at all. And again, Java comes with quite a bit of number of exception classes. So if you can use one that is already available, illegal argument exception, index out of bounds, arithmetic exception. If they work for you, then good, use them, right? If yours are very specific to the application you are writing, then programmers will usually write their own exception classes. Mine is not a big thing at all. All I did was I extended the exception class. So basically, anytime I throw this exception in code, it has to be handled, either handled or thrown further. So that's the, I couldn't say advantage, but what I'm trying to force you to learn how to either throw an exception. If you use a method that throws an exception, how to handle it or throw it further. So I'm kind of doing that too. So I could have said extends some other exception, kind of exception, and you may not have, like illegal argument exception will not give you any problems at all. Like if you don't even handle it or you don't even throw it further, JVM will automatically catch it, right? It will automatically give you all that error. But my aim is that I force you to kind of think why this is happening, or why am I getting an error, or why is it saying exceptions must be through. So this one is really simple. There's not much to do, but the advantage of my own exception class is that I can give a message that is only bound to what I want. I could have used the exception class also. It's no big deal at all. We will be doing more of exception in future, so this is just very easy, right? Also, we wrote the product class. So keep in mind, what are we trying to do? Here is a class that is defining, is a blueprint of a product. Now, whenever you think of a product, some attributes or some characteristics automatically come to your mind. Maybe the name of the product, maybe the description of the product, the price of the product, right? There could be more. There could be, your product could have a weight. It could, right? Of course, every product has a weight. So there could be many more. But when I'm creating my product class here, at least for this application, I have this in mind that this product will be stocked in an inventory, right? So I also added more fields to it, and the more fields that I added to it was quantity, right? I said quantity will also be an attribute. So usually quantity, you don't think of quantity as when you think of a product, you think more of its characteristic as maybe its weight, maybe its color, maybe its name, its size, and so on. I went with keeping, what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to create a product class that will eventually be going into an inventory. So I had quantity also added to my attribute. Also, with only your section, the other section doesn't have it, just in case, again, as I said, if you pick up files, you know. I also added 2 more attributes here, because when you stock something in an inventory, there is always a reorder level and the maximum quantity in which you can stock. But again, if it is an online inventory, then these features will not even count, right? So we are thinking more of a physical storage space. In that physical storage space, you're going to create an inventory. There will be a quantity of each product, and then there will be a maximum quantity that you can store. And of course, the reorder level, anytime you go below the reorder level, it needs to be stocked again or restocked, right? If it helps, I don't know, because you guys are better in relational database. One, because it is easy and maybe it just makes more sense. You can also kind of think it of this way. If I can try to relate it to a table, an inventory is nothing but a table of products, if you kind of think of it, right? So when I start creating an inventory, or basically a stock of my products, it's like a table. And in that table, you have records. Each record is of type product, right? So it has, for example, it has an ID, it has a name, I think. Okay, so it has an ID. So you can think of these as your columns: ID, name, quantity, price, and there are more. There reorder level, and there is maximum quantity. So what you're trying to create is an inventory when each record of your inventory is a record of type product. So what I'm defining here to begin with is kind of a create table command. Like, what are the fields in each of the records? So when you think of, if you can relate it, what you're trying to define is you're trying to define a table, an entity called product, right? And that entity has attributes, and those attributes are related to the product. So these are the attributes that each product has. And then when I go and create an inventory, all I'm doing is creating a table of products. And then you will learn, what do you do with an inventory? That you do with your tables. You search for something, you update something, you delete something, right? You insert something. All those operations that you do using select, insert, delete, update in relational database, you write them here yourself in your code, and then the application uses them. So if you could relate, and if it helps, I'll kind of relate both of them today so that it makes more sense. So some students are getting it, like it's coming, but some students still are struggling. So if it helps, why not, right? Because I see that you guys are better in that other course. As I said, it is definitely much easier. Maybe here the concept itself is a little confusing. Like, why am I writing this? Why is this method written? Okay. Okay, so this is what we did last week. Hopefully, I mean, I haven't yet tested all methods. Remember, we were short of time, so I didn't test my reorder and maximum quantity set methods. And that's not my aim today too, because I'm more interested in writing the stock class today. But I did make a small change while I was reading this code yesterday. I did make a small change here, and I would like to kind of bring it to your attention because it makes a little sense. Remember, we wrote an equals method here. I said we'll override the equals method of the object class because I would like to compare two products to see if their IDs are same. Because why? Because I can only add unique products to my inventory. You don't add a product and you say, well, I already have a product that has ID 1. I'm going to add another new product and it also has an ID 1. So because I need it there, I wrote this equals method. So as I was reading it, and it's simple method, all it does is it overrides the equals method of the object class, which by default compares two objects for their addresses, where they sit. That's all it does. It says, oh, are you at the same place as this? If yes, you're equal, otherwise you're not equal. That's what it does. So I kind of overrode it and I said that compare the IDs, get the ID of the current object with which you're comparing, and then get the ID of the object which you sent. And if they're equal, then of course that it is. But just to be, again, all defensive programming, even before I start comparing, I should check if my object that is being sent to be compared is not equal to null. Or you can say is equal to null, we can throw an exception. That way it's just easy, I don't have to change much. So if the object that you're trying to send me doesn't exist, this is like your illegal argument exception. So I can throw my own exception if I like, or I can throw an illegal argument exception if I like. Why? Because this argument becomes illegal. So start also thinking that I should also check my parameters, like you do validate your parameters, right? When they come in, you say, oh, it is a value between this and this. So here you can add this and you can say if the object is null, basically there is nothing to do. So you can throw an exception. And if you like, you can throw your own exception, like using your my exception class and say the object to be compared cannot be null. Or here is an example where you can throw an illegal argument exception. An illegal argument exception is already defined in Java. So you don't have to do anything at all. It depends on what you want to do. So since I'm sticking to my own exceptions, I'll say throw my exception and I'll say the object. And since we won't say it object, we'll say the product to be compared cannot be null. Oops. So that way I've added another, error checking, right? What doesn't it like? Oh, throws my, yep, throws. See, here is the reason. I'm trying to stick to, it still doesn't like it. It's the quotes, okay. Or even throws was needed, but that would have come afterwards there. Now what doesn't it like? Oh, that's what will cause a problem. Remember now the equals method of the object class cannot throw an exception. So the overriding will not work. So you know what I'll do? Let me throw the illegal one. Then I'm safe. Not safe, I mean, I've just taken care of it. Then I don't need this. There it is. So you can throw there is nothing wrong. You can always mix and match. So illegal argument exception, you say from where does it come? It's already available in Java, right? And because its name makes sense, it's illegal argument exception. So it's saying your argument is illegal. So I can just create an object of that type and pass it that message and it will come. The only thing I have to remember is I should be able to catch it in my graph. So I can give this message, this proper message. And illegal argument exception is a child of the exception class. It inherits from the exception class. Then why don't I need to handle it or throw it further? Because remember I said the exceptions are in two groups. One that are completely taken care by the JVM. So you don't even have to bother about it. Illegal is one of them. Argument This one. Arithmetic exception is another one. Index out of bounds is another one. You've never kind of cared about it. If the exception comes, it automatically comes when your program stops working. It doesn't complain about anything. The other class, which doesn't have a name, the other class you always have to do something. That something is two. Either you handle them in try catch or you throw them. So when I use my exception, which is a child of exception, it directly becomes of the other kind. It has to be either caught or throw, right? So I'll go with this one. That way I don't have to do a non-overwrite. And this is perfectly fine. So if this happens, it won't even go further. Otherwise, it will do the obvious it was doing. All other methods were good. Only this method was not checking its argument. So I thought, why not? And you can do it everywhere. Like you can just make it a habit that you can check your arguments when they come. If you don't do it, the system will do it. It will come up with something saying something, null something. It will. You can try. Maybe I can try it for you. Let me try what happens. It is a lot of work. I'll have to create two objects. Okay, no big deal. Do you have this ready? Did we do something in the something ready? Okay. Mouse, keyboard, add stock. There it is. I've used equals. Okay, let's try to do this. This can be done very quickly. I can show you something. So let me not do this. Right? As it was normally before, as it was before. Now let me, you know what? NetBeans is very smart. It won't even let me, I think, go further. Let me try to put null here. Is S1 equal to null? Remember, null is a reserved word. So syntactically it takes it. So now I've done this just for the heck of it. So I'm passing, I'm seeing is S1 equal to null, which is like foolish to do. But I've passed a null argument to my equals. Let's see what happens if I do this. And I haven't caught it. I haven't done anything with it, okay? Let's see. Build is successful. Okay, so something is not right. It shouldn't be successful. Okay, is it stopping anywhere? Is it giving a problem somewhere? Build should not be successful. Oh, because I'm doing it with S1. Oops, that's why. So I'll leave what it was. I'm doing it with S1. What does it do? If like it automatically, whatever is in string, the string class must have done something about it. I don't know what it has done. I want to do this. I want to see if P1 equals null. I've overridden it. Of course, the equals method has been overwritten in the string class also. So I don't know how it behaves in null. It wasn't doing anything. So quantity in stock must be less than. So I've done more checking in here than I've done with the other section. Okay, let's see. That's what happens when you do it after 2 weeks. No, it's still working. So something is going on that is P1, P2, println, add the stock. P1 is being printed, quantity in stock. Okay, somewhere an error is coming up. Oh, here. Okay, product is taking. How many parameters is product taking? ID, name, quantity, and price. So where is it saying maximum quantity? Quantity in stock must be less than or equal to maximum quantity. See where this error is coming up. It's a exception message. Oh, I've caught it here. Okay, that's another thing. But where is this message coming from? And then there is a done. Done must be in finally, of course. And then a message is coming up. Quantity is more than. So somewhere in exception or in my exception. Add the stock. Oh, add stock. Add stock becomes 10. Oh, okay. This I think here. Okay, maybe here. That's the only place where I can see. Adding a stock is doing it. Okay, so that's S1, S2. And I have a try catch. Okay, all that is commented out. Okay, now let's test. There was another exception, so it is not even moving forward. Still coming. Oh, God. Now where is this exception coming? Maximum quantity. That's quantity. That's price 1 and 5. Stock it. Nothing. I'm saying print out, sell a product. Print out, sell a product. Oh, sell a product. And it only has how much? P1 has how much? 10 of them. Only one of them. Oops. Okay. So this one. This cannot happen. Okay. Now let's try again. I have to see what was happening. Still coming. How many exceptions have I thrown? Now I don't think I have anything. Do you see something now? System out println P1. That's not even happening. It's not even coming here. Create a product P1 with 1, 1 and price and 5 and 50 as the price. Where is this exception coming from? Quantity in stock must be less than or equal to maximum quantity. Oh, I know. Because your maximum quantity is 0. At this point of time, your maximum quantity is 0. That's your default. Oh, I'll have to do much more work in your product. Oh. Can't happen. You've done much more than I thought. Therefore, it's coming up. See, the maximum quantity is 0. And when you try to set it to 5, it comes up with an exception. How can you set it to 5 or 10 or whatever? What should I do to make it work to show you the problem that arises? Okay, I'm going to take that maximum quantity and give it just a value 20. So when it is 20, 5 and 10 are okay. I can give you the other one, the old one that didn't have anything. And maybe that is much easier. Okay, I've set it. Now let's try to run it again. Oh, now the reorder. Okay, the program has much more. Can you do me a favor if you want to kind of test it? The other section hasn't done this extra work, the stock and all that. And the program is up on Blackboard. If you want, I can show you there. Let me show it to you there. Maybe that will make more sense. But it will come up. What I'm aiming to show you is this. If I don't catch it, though logically, I mean, it makes sense, but I was just trying to show it to you. Because until I show it, I can't prove it. All I was trying to show it to you was if I don't catch it here, if I don't take care in the equals method, then it is going to, of course, cry about it. And I can't show you until I take care of all of the new things that I added. I have a reorder level, I have a maximum quantity, and so on. So you know what I'm going to do? Because otherwise this will create problems for me too. And you can do it if you like, otherwise just follow me. I mean, it won't matter when we do the stock. I am going to, because the other section was behind you. Okay, I'm going to do this. You can if you like. It's on Blackboard. It's under the Tuesday section. It's called product. You can keep this somewhere else and just copy their code. Okay, you know what? Why waste your time? I can prove my things afterwards. We'll leave it. You can add this to your code. Hopefully it makes sense. It is making sense. I was only trying to show you that it works. But you've done so much more that I have to do much more than before I can show you. So all I've done here in my equals method is before I compare, I'm checking, do you exist? That's all I'm doing. So if object is equal to none, I throw an exception, right? We'll leave it at this. If I need, I'll come back. I'll remove all the extra stuff. But if it doesn't matter to me, I'll be okay. I'll write my own tester or whatever. It is going to create problems because of your maximum quantity and everything. It is going to create problems. You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to refactor it and rename it. And call it product 1, just so that I can copy the other one. Okay. So that I don't lose it. And you can do the same thing if you want to work with me. I've just called it product 1. That's all I've done. So that I can have the other one, the old version. If you have the old version somewhere, you can do it. Okay, there I am. I'm just trying to, because we didn't complete it before the reading week. I didn't complete it in the sense we didn't do all the checking. I'm reverting to before I added those extra variables. That's all I'm doing. So I don't have a maximum quantity and I don't have a reorder. That's what I don't have. Those two are missing. So that way I don't have to keep bothering about, oh, like in the sense of, did I change things and what happened? So if you want to do that, you are most welcome to pick up this code from Blackboard. It is under weekly learning in the Tuesday section, and you can copy and paste. What I did, I just did that. I am using the older version before we made these changes. That's all I'm doing, okay? Because then I have to do much more, and I don't have time. I want to finish my stock class. I'll complete it myself and give it to you if that helps afterwards. And here also I've added the same thing. I've just added, if object is equal to null, throw the new illegal exception, you must provide a product for comparison. Same message could be a little different, right? So if it is too much to comment out your maximum quantity and all that stuff, just go copy from there, keep this copy for your future reference if you like, and paste. And you're back to where you were. So you've done extra work, which is always good. There's nothing bad about it, but I want to use my older version so that I'm not stuck with all those things which we didn't complete. Right? So with this, of course, I can show you, because now my product class doesn't have any extra variables or anything at all. If I try to do this and I try to run it without this, if I try to run it without this in my runner class, I should be okay now, because I removed it, right? You can comment out everything, like it's perfectly fine. Things are okay now. You can sell products and so on. I can't sell that product. I can add to stock. I can add this. I can add this. And okay, now let's try to do it. Oh, it's still throwing it. And why is it now going to the old product? Clean and build. Okay, now let's try it again. Oh, because here also it became product one. Refactor means change it everywhere. It isn't recognizing this one. That's strange. Why isn't it recognizing this one? Clean and build project. It doesn't recognize the new product class I added. What could be the reason? Yeah, there it is. Notice my exception product.java, product1.java. It's right there.
Product P1 can be a product one.
Yes, sorry. So I made a change. Exactly. Of course it cannot be. How can it be? So changes from both places. Okay, so that was it. It changed when it refactored. It changed it everywhere. Can you imagine? Okay, there. See, this is coming with that illegal argument exception, and it's not a very good message. It doesn't make a lot of sense. It just says null. Now, what is that null? I mean, if a user was looking at this, a common user, you would have no idea what this means. But what the system is trying to tell you is you're comparing two objects. One of them is null and the other is a product, and that's what it is, null. Very strange. Now see the difference. Now when I add something like this, which is what you should always do, always take care of your code. It's your responsibility. Now when I try to do this, I have a proper message. Now you run it again. And you must see a proper message. There it is. That's the difference. That makes more sense. It says you must provide a product for. So remember, writing exception messages in your code is almost a must, because then you will see proper messages on the screen, right? So why do I write it? Oh, why is it needed? That's why it is needed. Output should always be neat and clean. Okay, so that was what I was trying to show you. So please add this to your code if you like, or as I said, just pick it up from Blackboard. What this code is missing are the extra variables, all that extra work we did, which never goes waste, because we learned a few things. We worked with the maximum quantity and the reorder length. So definitely when you get it for an assignment, it won't be new for you. Okay, now comes the next step. So my product is ready, but keep in mind that the attributes of my product are kind of related or were created keeping in mind that this product will go into an inventory. So it had an ID which was unique, like your primary key in your relational database. When you create primary key of your table, here ID is my primary key. And two, I have a quantity which doesn't make a lot of sense for a product, but I need it because I'm going to stock it in inventory. So when you say attributes, you have to kind of course, they are the attributes of, you could say attributes of a student, attributes of a car, attributes of a room, but it also depends upon the application you are writing. So now let's create the inventory. So you can create a new class now. So if you haven't copied it, that's fine, just to prove to you that it works. Okay, so now let's go and create a new class. Now I'm going to create a class. You can call it inventory if you like. It's a good name. I'm going to call it stock manager, because the word inventory I'll be using many times in my comments. Then it kind of confuses it with the class name. Okay, so what do I want to do now? To relate it to what you do in a relational database, I now want to create a table of records. Each record is of type product. So now, since, of course, if it was real life, I would be doing that. I would be creating a database, and I would be connecting to the database, the table in the database, and working on it. Since we are not going there, I'm definitely will learn it in your advanced course. I'm going to work with an array list, right? So for me, my table, which is a collection of records, for me it would be an array list of products, right? You can think of it like a table with products inside it. So I'll try to relate everything so it becomes easy. So what do I need? So I can put these comments afterwards. I'll do it, okay? It's not a big deal. So what this class does basically, so I'll write the definitions and the methods we can kind of do, or you can do afterwards. This class simulates an inventory. That's what it is doing, okay? So as soon as I say simulates an inventory, you can start thinking, oh, what do I do in an inventory? You search for a product. You can add new products. You can delete products. You can update something about a product. So all those 4 operations, we will code ourselves. How do I select? How do I update? How do I delete? And how do I insert? We'll write all those. The 4 verbs that you use, the 4 statements that you use, I'll write methods for them. That's what you do with an inventory, right? That's all we do with an inventory. So this class simulates an inventory or stock, whatever you've called it, of products, right? And of the type that we've just created, of the product class. And we can add, you can say, what all will I be able to do? Products can be added, searched, updated, and deleted. That's what you do in an inventory, right? We'll learn to do all these methods. So if I have these methods, then it's like your insert, delete, update, and delete in your relational database. So we'll do all of them. And the rest is small and simple. Keep your name. And you can change this annotations, please remember. And for date, there is nothing. So we have to go with either since or whatever you like, or version number. Whatever makes more sense to you. I'll just write both. You can choose whatever you like. So when I say I need to see this Java doc comments in your code, that's what I'm looking for. I'm not looking for regular comments. These are called Java doc comments. They start with a slash and a double star and end with a star and a slash. They all convert to Java doc comments in the API. I don't know, 1.0. So you can choose whatever you like. Okay. So this simulates an inventory of stock products. And remember, these are objects of that type, the product that we wrote, and they can be added, searched, updated, and deleted. And again, you can search by your primary key, which is your ID. You can search by name if you like. You can also search by price. It's like your where condition. How do I want to search by records? Where ID is this, where name is this, where price is greater than $10, where quantity is greater than 5, whatever. You can do all kind of searches using all you have to do is write your method for it. That's all you have to do. So we'll learn how to do that. So that relationship may help you understand, right? Okay, now what do I need? So I'll leave it. I won't write too many comments because then I won't have time. Okay, what do I need? What is an inventory? What are the characteristics of an inventory? What represents an inventory? What is it? What's an inventory, guys? Collection of products. That's all. And then management, of course, right? But collection of products. So if I need a correct collection, all I need is, I'll use the easiest one. Now you have the option. Many of you may have noticed that you don't need to give a type at all here. You can just write it like this. When you give a type, you actually get a warning saying you can put diamond symbols. Now, they've kind of jumped from one to the other. Array list was of a collection, dynamic collection in which you could put elements or objects of the same type. Now they have removed that restriction. To the same array list, you could be adding a number, a string, a Boolean, whatever you like. And it works. It's just a collection of objects now. So therefore, you needn't say, oh, it is an array list of products or array list of an integer. The advantage of doing it is that if you say that I have a collection of product, then you cannot add anything else to it. But if you leave it like this, then you have the option of adding whatever. I can show you, you can just add whatever you like. So all this is saying is import it and you're okay. And see, there is no error. You don't have to mention the type anymore now in array list. I think Java 7 started it. But if I do this, I am kind of making it strict. I'm saying the only elements that can go into that array list are of type product. You've seen something similar in your midterm. Many of you kind of stumbled over it. But all you did was you created a list of integers. Since an array list is a collection of objects, I can't say int. I can do this. But I can use its class and I'm okay. That's all you have to remember. It's a collection of objects. So if it's only integer, you go give integer. And now I need a collection of this. So if I do this, it does come up with, it will, I think not here when I do a new, it says you don't have to tell me again. But if you don't give your angular brackets and product, then you have the option of adding whatever you like in the elements, as long as it is an object. But that means basically anything. So I won't go that route because I want to be strict. Why? Because I want to write code that's robust. So I don't want to say, oh, you can add anything into my inventory. You can only add products into the inventory. So I'll stay with this definition. I won't go with the generic one. Okay, so that's the only thing you need. Anything else that you need in an inventory? Nothing, if you look at it. All it is a collection of products. That's all. You'll say, oh, what if I want to find out how many products, how many different distinct products do I have? Size. I don't even need a size. I don't need to know anything else but just this collection. I just need the collection. I don't have any other instance variables. So that's all you need. You just need a collection or a list, whatever you would like to call it. That's all you need, nothing else. Now, the constructor, basically the use of the constructor to initialize your instance variables. You'll say, I don't have an instance variable. There are nothing. But remember, array list is also an instance variable. It's an object that needs to be created or instantiated, which you haven't done. You've just said, I need a array list, but you haven't instantiated it. So some of you do it, but I mean, not many, very few do it. You kind of go new here itself. Please don't do that. You don't do it. Why? One, because you are declaring it right at the top here. You can declare instance variables wherever you like in your code, in between methods, after the methods, or whatever. And two, it is not the norm in Java at all. In Java, all instance variables are initialized in the constructor. So let's initialize it. I don't need any parameters because I don't need anything from the outside world. All I need is this array list called stock needs to be initialized by going new array list. I can avoid this here. This angular brackets I can avoid because I've already told it that you are a product. I can avoid it. And that's all I need to do in my constructor. But if you forget to do this, your program will not work. Why? Because you don't have an object to work with. So this declaration, every time you declare an object, you have to do, depends. You'll say, oh, what if I give you an array list? And you just have to initialize it. Yes, you can do that. You can. So here this is saying I have an empty inventory to start. There is nothing in my inventory. The other option is, yeah, you're starting with an inventory, but here is the list. You should already have these products in the inventory. Then I'll pass it a parameter. But then I have to validate it because my product's price must be greater than 0 and so on. So I'll have to do more work. I can start like this and then I can use add to add the products. I can do that work. But both options are available. So you can pass an array list to initialize your own array list. It's not wrong as long as you are validating what's coming in. Because what's coming in has not been validated. It's just a list of products. Maybe one of those products has a negative price or a negative quantity. If you don't validate it, then you have garbage going into your array list. So that's another option. You can do it. There's nothing wrong. That's all we need here. That's all I need in my constructor. Okay, now let's start writing our select methods and so on. Yes. Oh, yes, I did. You're very right. Exactly. I created a method. Why? Because constructors don't have a return type. Definitely. They don't have a return type. Void is a valid return type. So that's your constructor. Okay, now let's start writing. So if you want, I can comment a few in the beginning and then you can do whatever. So this method searches. So I'm starting with my search. Okay. So as I said, what do you do with an inventory? You search for a product. You want to insert information about a new product. You want to change or modify or update information about a product. Or you want to maybe just delete. You don't want to carry that product anymore. So all those 4 operations and put them in. And then you can use it as if you are using a table of products. All you have to remember is, of course, the names. You can't call it select and so on. You have to go on that. So we'll start with search. I'll write a couple and then you can say, oh, what will happen if I want to search by name? What if it is search by quantity? Same concept, just a little different. Okay, so this method searches for a product in the inventory or in the stock by ID. Right, it searches by ID. So it needs a param, of course. You can call it whatever you like, ID, and this is the product ID to be searched for. Will it return a value? If it finds the product, of course, it wants to return the product. So it is going to return the product if found. Yes, here is the product you were looking for. But if it doesn't find that product, it's going to throw a exception. It may happen, right? You're searching for something. What happens if something is not present? You get an empty table in your output. Here, it won't return anything. So I'm going to throw an exception, and I'll throw my own exceptions. If the product ID is not found. You could return a null if you like. You have the option, oh, I'll return null. But exceptions are easy. Why? One, because they give a message to the user. They say this product is not in my inventory. So it's better. The user sees, oh, I'm trying to look for a product with ID 26, and there is no product with ID 26. So it's always better to throw exceptions rather than to pass values like false or true. Oh, I was able to do it, I was not able to do kind of stuff. Here it will just throw an exception. Okay, so you can call the method by a name that makes sense. So it's a public method. Of course, it's public because it has to be used outside. It is returning you a product. That's the return type. You can say find product by ID, and it will require an ID from you. So think of this like select product from inventory or stock where ID is equal to this. That's what you're trying to write. If you relate it, right? You're trying to say search product from stock. Stock is your array list or like your table where product ID, the ID that I'm searching is equal to the ID that I provide. It's just like a select statement. Now we will write the code for that select statement so that when you click on it or when you choose it, it gives you that product. Right? It just returns the product. And then you can print it out and it will show you, it will kind of appear, you can make it appear like in a table, like you do in relational database. So if that connection, that visualization helps you, that's all I'm doing. So this method will allow me to search a product by ID. Okay, so let's write it. If you want, I can keep, but it doesn't matter. I mean, if you pick up the other one, you should be able to make 2 and 2 together. Okay, so what should you do logically? What should you do? So in a way, this is what you want to do, right? You want to go through the whole table and you want to compare the IDs. And wherever you find it, you stop because IDs are unique. There's only one particular record with that particular ID. That's all I have to do. That's how search works, right? Search goes through the records, of course, using an index. Search goes through the records, matches the ID, and if it finds it good, if it doesn't find it, it will just throw an exception. So let's write that code. So how do we do that? We have a for loop. Now, instead of using the simple for loop, please use a for each loop because it's more efficient and less work for the programmer. So use a normal for loop. So basically, traverse the stock or look through the stock till found. Only till found, not the whole stock. Till you find it, stop right there. So use your for loop. What's coming out of your stock? A product is coming out of your stock. That's your for loop. You don't have to worry. I have to start from 0, use a Boolean variable found or not found. While it is not found, I have to go on nothing. We'll use a return. Right? So what do you want to do? You want to check their IDs. How do you do that? You check if the ID that I've given you is the same as the ID of the product that is coming. So get the ID of this product. It's a string equals ignore case. That's better. And then if it has been found, let's return right away. There, job done. Just 3 lines of code. That's the search. So again, using a for each loop is recommended and more efficient than using a normal for loop. Let the system do its work. Let it exactly knows how to use a for each loop. So start going a little further. I know you know your normal for loops, but why not use this? There is much more in Java that you can learn. Like so much more. Now Java 8 has come up with so many new things, mapping and lambdas and functional programming and so on. But at least start taking more steps, right? So you start using better fors, not your usual for I is equal to 0, I less than size. Forget about it. You have a new for, use it. Okay. If this does not happen, then what do you want to do? You just want to throw an exception. You will only reach here if you did not return here. You will only reach here if you did not make a return. That means you went through the whole array list, the whole stock, and you were not able to find it. So what will you throw? You can throw any exception you like. I'll again stick to my exceptions because I have it. And a proper message would work. This product is not stocked. So keep in mind, not stocked is different in not in stock. I mean, that quantity you could be checking through new exception. Oh, okay. Now bring your mouse over it. What is it saying? It's saying unreported exception must be caught or declared to be thrown. And this is what I want you to get into the habit of. Exceptions need to be handled or thrown. Now a class will never handle it. The application will handle it. A class says, you gave me an ID, I couldn't find it, here is your answer. So it will just do what? Throw. It just throws it further. Oh. And this is only happening because my exception is a child of the exception class. And if it is a child of the exception class, it kind of needs to be handled or thrown. So I'm sticking with my exception just for this reason, so that you start understanding when do you write throws in your signatures. And I don't want to handle it. It's not the job of the class to handle it. The job has a contract. It's called design by contract in Java, in object-oriented programming. The design by contract says, I have a contract with you. You are telling me to select by ID. I can find it. Here is your empty table. And that's the empty table. This product is not stocked. Right? So you have to follow design principles also. You can't say, oh, no, I'll do a system out printer. And no, you cannot do it. You don't do printings in classes. Each method will usually return something. Or if it doesn't return something, it does a job. Okay, so this returns what? It returns the P if it finds it. And if it doesn't find it, it returns in a sense. Throw is like a return, like an abnormal return. It returns you a message. Right? So if you try to find and it doesn't work, then you get a message back. Okay, that's search by ID. That's all it is. That's your select in relational database. Can you do a search by name? Why not? You can search by name also. All you have to do is, how different is it? Here, of course, you'll have to give it a different name. So because we cannot overload it. Same ID, they're both strings. ID is also a string and name is also a string. So I have to kind of, I can't simply say find product. I'll have to say by ID or by name. It still throws an exception. All you have to do is compare the name now. Right? Compare the name with the name. And this product is not stopped, simple. It's still a search. Now, instead of searching by ID, you are searching by name. So this searches for a product in the by name. And return the product names now. There.
What if you're searching by name and
More than one. Exactly. This one will stop at the first one. If I want to search by all names, I'll have to write another name. And what will it return? Not one product, but an array list. Let's do that, right? Because names may not be unique. Though usually they will be. Even if there are keyboards, they will have some kind of distinction. Keyboard, Microsoft, keyboard, Apple, something. But assuming, because if we haven't said names are unique, what if there is more than one? Let's do that. This one will stop at the first name. That matters, right? If I don't want to stop there, I just have to write another method. So this one is simply doing the same thing. It finds a product, compares the name instead of ID, and then gives it to you. So therefore, we usually search a table by primary key, something that is unique. But again, it's very logical that you want to see all keyboards. Maybe not name, it could be in the description, but some kind of concept. Descriptions can be same, keyboard, 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 right? But here, let's call it name. So if that's the case, then what do we do? Let's do that now. You take the same method by the name one. Let's make a copy. Now this method is going to return all products by that name. If found, of course. Right? So I'm telling you this is the name, the product name to be searched for, and it will return all products by that name if found. And if not found, it will still give me an error. So let's change it. Let's say find products by name. Remember, overloaded methods need to have a different signature. Now in my signature, it's not the return type or what, it's the parameter list. So the parameter list has to be different, whether it's different in its type, in its sequence, or in its number of parameters. It has to be different. And I can do it here because my ID and name are both strings. So though I would have liked to call them same, find product, find product, find product, I cannot, because all three are taking a string. So I have to give them different names. I have to. There is no other way I can do it. Overloading cannot be done because my parameter is the same in each case. It's string, string, string. So I have to use different names. But in relational database, you don't say select by name. You go select, select, select always. So that concept I can do it here because I cannot overload this method. Now let's see. What do we need to do? Since one, instead of a product, you could have a list of product back. That's your first change. You could be getting an array list back. Right? Instead of one product, you could have array list back. Traverse this stock. Not till found. You are traversing it. You're just traversing it. But now what will I do? I'll create a local array list. Right? You will create a local array list of type product. You can call it products if you like. To begin with, of course, there is nothing in it, right? So there is nothing in it. Now, if you want to use it, you'll definitely have to go new. So create an empty array list. Otherwise, it's null. It does not exist. So create one. And now, instead of return here to this array list products, keep adding your product if you find it. Now you're traversing the stock, right? Or going through the inventory. So what did you do? You said, are you there? Yes, please add yourself to the products list. Are you there? Add yourself to the products list. If your job is done, what do? Return the products. Now there is a problem here. It says, bring your mouse over it. It will say, this statement is unreachable. Why? Because after return, any statement is useless. So before I return, what will I do? How can you get around this? You are only interested in returning something if your products is not empty, right? So I'll say if not products is empty or size is equal to 0, whatever you would like to use. This error will come. Try to see why this error is coming. A return statement takes you back. So the method is terminated, right? Return says I'm done. Now, if I'm done, how can you write a statement after the return? You can do it logically. You're saying, okay, go back. And then you do this, please. And that's exactly what it is saying. It is saying unreachable statement. This statement cannot be reached. So what I'm trying to fool now the compiler is, I'll put an if here. Now with if, the compiler says, oh, may or may not happen. So if there is a may or may not happen, the next statement could be reached. Could be reached. So I'm going to say, if my products is not empty, I'll just kind of put a not in front of it. If there is something in it, return it. Else, I don't need an else, because if it doesn't return, it will automatically complain. Now it doesn't complain. Now this statement becomes reachable because there is an if there that says, right? So you need an if, because if you don't do it, how will you throw your exception? And it will never reach it. So you have to test it. Do I have something to return? And how do you test it? Is it empty? Not null, empty. Because if the object is null, is different from the object is empty. If it is null, you can't even add to it. If you forget to do this, if you forget to do your initialization here, for whatever reason, if you forget to do this, notice you will get an error straight away. It says variable products might not have been initialized. You'll say, what is initialization? Creating the object, instantiating the object. You can't work. You'll say, oh, I need a box. That's good enough. But you need to get the box before you can put things into it. That's exactly what the new does. It gives you the box. Without the new, you are saying, I need a box. When you say is equal to new, you say, here, give me the box. You've taken it. You have an empty box. So if you don't do that, how will you work with products? It doesn't exist. It's null. At this point of time, products is null. So you can say null.add. You can't add to something that does not exist. That's the use of new. You can't work without it. Right? And then, of course, you can add, then you can check, are you empty, and so on. So I'm saying if I couldn't find it, so if you want to put, you can say if no product by that name was found. Oh, sorry. If product or products, doesn't matter. It could be either, one or more. If products by that name are found, then you return it. And if they're not found, automatically it will throw an exception. So instead of saying traverse the stock, I mean, traverse is usually with a list, but you can start using whatever you like, stock and inventory. Right? That's search by name when you can have more than one records back. So it's like a table coming back. Of course, nothing gets printed unless you print it, but it is giving you that back. Even SQL is not creating a new table, it's just showing it. And what we will do in our application, once we have this back, we'll spit it out, we'll print it. And the job is done. That's search by name. Of course, you can write search by quantity. You can write find by price. I want to look at all products between 10 and 50. It will need two parameters, lower limit and upper limit, lower price and upper price, and you will compare it. Same for loop. So you can write how many ever number of searches as you want. They're just different conditions. So you can search by ID, you can search by name, you can search by quantity. I'm interested in all where the quantity is greater than 10. So pass 10 as the parameter, like any parameter, and put your condition. So these are just searches. What you're writing are just searches. Find by price. I'm interested in all those products that are priced between. When you go to websites, doesn't it say give your price range and it shows you only those values? You can make a search by price. The method will not change, but what's inside the method will change. So by price, I may get, again, I will need a local array list because many products will lie in that price range of say 100 to 150. So what am I looking for? What am I searching will become a method. What does it return? Is it a single product being returned or is it a number of records being returned? So will product go back or will an array list of product go back? And then you write your code. In the code, the same thing. Traverse your inventory or stock, compare your condition, and if it is the only first return, yes. If not, add to it. So as easy as that. You can add so many methods. I've given you just an idea of two by ID and name. The price will take a price parameter. The quantity will take a quantity parameter. Right? So that's all you're doing. You're writing your select clauses or select statements yourself. Somebody has written them for you. That's why you use them in MySQL. Now you are writing them first, and then somebody will use. But the concept remains the same. Okay, so try writing yourself. And if you get stuck, ask me. Try writing yourself, find product by price, find product by quantity, find product by quantity, some like greater than 10 or whatever. Like you can write thousands of selects now. But the concept will remain the same. That's all you're doing. You're writing your own methods to implement what you can do with your class. Okay, so again, there's no limit. You can go on and on. Let's go to more methods. So those are your collection of selects, which is not the end. As I said, you can do whatever. So whenever you try to think, oh, what are the parameters will I need for this method? Think, what input would I require to make this method work? So if I'm searching by ID, what do you need? ID. If I'm searching by name, what do you need? Name. If I'm searching between two prices, I need two parameters, the lower price and the upper price. If I'm searching for quantity between 100 and 200, I again need two parameters. If I'm searching for quantity greater than 100, I'm only looking for one parameter. So parameters is what is required by the method to work. That's what your parameter list is. That's how you decide, do I need something? Parameter, no, empty. Do I need 1, 2, 3, 4, 10? How many parameters do I need? And that decides your parameters, whether it's a constructor or whether it's a method. That's how you decide. The parameters you can think of as input required by the method to do its job. Okay, so you can write as many as you like. I'll kind of stop here. Let's write the next one. I want to insert a product or insert a record in my table. Right? That's your second operation. So search is done. Now let's do add. So add says you should be able to add a product in the inventory. Now when you add a product, you will give the product. Add this product in my inventory. You will kind of give a record, though you could take these four parameters separately: ID, name, price, and quantity. But usually a product is created and then passed on to the method. Right? But the option is you can give me four things and I'll create my record myself. But you always kind of, what do you say? You say insert into values and give your record in round values. So you're giving all the values. That's what you're doing here also. So let's add. So this method adds a product to the stock or inventory, whatever you've called it. And you have to keep in mind that the product ID must be unique. Right? The product ID must be unique. That means if there is already a product by this ID, this should kind of throw an exception saying cannot be done. Something has to be unique. Otherwise, how will you kind of search for things in inventory? Names are a different thing, but IDs have to be unique. Same concept, right? Okay, the product ID must be unique. Let's see how I'll implement it. How will I enforce this constraint or this rule of primary key in my Java? There, when you try to do it, an error comes up saying primary key cannot be duplicated. It has to be unique. I'll do the same thing. Now let me implement it. How will I implement it? Okay. Of course, it will need a param. Just so that I don't forget anything. I have a printout of what I need to do. Yep, that's okay. I'm on track. It will need a param. You can call it whatever you like. I'm going to call it product with a small p. If it confuses you, just call it prod or whatever. And this is the product to be added. Right? Will it return something? Now the options, there are a few options. You'll say, oh, I'll return true if it was added. I'll return false if it was not added. That's one way of looking at it. I say that if you add it, good. If you don't add it, throw an exception. So again, the return type could be true, false. That is Boolean. The return type could be void. So who decides that? The programmer, of course, decides it. Who else, right? But to me, I think giving a message back, the product cannot be added is good enough. Giving a false back doesn't make a lot of sense. I mean, then the application has to say, oh, a false came back. I must print a message that it is not in stock. Let the class do it. It's the job of the inventory, right? That's what happens when you try to look for something and it is not in stock. Doesn't a message come up, not in stock? It does when you try to shop online. If you've done that, it says not in stock. That's exactly what I'll do. So it doesn't return anything, but it throws. So even here, see, even here, I could have said my return type. I mean, I can give you an option, like I can show you what you could have done in any of these actually. If you don't find a product, you can always say return null. And there's nothing wrong in it. Like, because why? Because you are saying I'm returning a product back. So if you couldn't find it, you can say return null. You could do it. I chose not to do this because I thought throwing a message is better. It's the same thing. Return null is more programmatical, like it's more programming, and the application says, oh, null is coming back, it is not. Here it's same. It says it's not there. Here is the message. But you could always say return null. There's nothing wrong in it. But this is a better way of doing it because designed by contract. Yes, give me the input. I'll work with it. Works. Here is your answer. Does not work. Here is your message. But return null is a valid value to return if you don't find the product, because null means what? Non-existing object, and null is valid. When the return type is an object, null is a valid value to return. And maybe it will come handy someday for you. Keep that in mind. You can always say return null if the return type is an object, any object. Even a string. Remember, string is an object. Okay, so what will it throw? It throws an exception if the product cannot be added. So if the product ID is not unique, it throws an exception. And the product never gets added. It won't. So here I've said the product ID must be unique and it adds a product. Else it won't get added. Product never gets added. Okay, so now let's look at it. How will we ensure that the ID is unique? Okay, so it's a public method, has no return type. Again, you could return a boolean, done, not done, yes or true. We'll kind of go away from that baby writing a little and kind of make it more professional, right? True, false is more kind of baby-like, what it is returning. The method add product maybe. And of course, it will need a product from you. And this is very common. The name of the class and the name of the objects you'll see are very common in Java. And this is of add product. Okay, logically, what should this method do? What should be the logic behind this method? It has, go ahead.
Search the array list, see if the ID exists. If it's unique, add it. If not,
yes. Perfect. Right, so I have to go through the whole array list, right, through my stock, whatever you call it, through your stock, check if this ID exists. If it does not, add. If it does, throw an exception. Now, we have a method that already does this, the searching. That method in the array list class is called contains. I'll use it. I won't do it myself, right? I could, but why should I? Therefore, I say don't reinvent the wheel. So all I'll do is I'll check if the array list, that my stock array list contains this product. Now, how does contain work? That's what you have to understand. Contains will do a comparison, as Brian was saying, but the comparison that needs to be done is extracted from the equals method. That's the use of my equals method. So when contains is called, it indirectly calls equals. And what have I done in my equals? I've compared the IDs. And that's what it will do. If I did not have an equals method in my product class, then it would go to the equals method of the object class. And how are two objects equal in the object class if their addresses are same? That doesn't work for me. For me, two products are equal if their IDs are same. So I won't write the loop myself, neither I'll check it myself. I can use the contains method, but you have to understand that the contains method will use the equals method to check if it is already. Okay, so all I have to do is this. And again, to be on the safe, you can even do this. You can say if the first thing, the product that you are giving me, the one that you want to add, if it is equal to null. So we'll start doing this also, because I mean, I should have actually done it everywhere in my IDs and names also, because ID and names are strings and strings are also objects, right? You should do it everywhere. Just when I see a real, like I see a name, it makes, I think of it. I don't, but string is an object. We should do it everywhere. I'll do it. Okay, so if the product is null, throw an exception. So why would you even search for it? Throw an exception, say the product to be added cannot be null. Or you can say must exist, something like that, right? To make it more like layman. So here I'm saying the product to be added cannot be null, or you can say must exist, because that's what cannot be null means. It must exist. Okay. So because I've always said make your messages English like normal layman, because your messages are going to a normal layman who's using your code, who will be using the application, I mean, at the end. There. There. Now why doesn't it like? Cannot find symbol, my exception. Oh, new. There. So that's my first job, even before checking. And it makes sense. Now what do I want to do? I want to say, does your list contain it? So I'm going to use the contains method. And you have to remember which uses the equals method by default. You can say calls, or you can say whatever. And this is no magic. This is how it works. So if you go to the array list and you look at the method contains, it says returns true if this list contains the specified. Oh, it is also checking for null actually. It will compare null and null also, which is okay. More formally, return true if and only if this list contains at least one element E, at least one element. So there could be more, but contains means it contains. Anyway, it won't ever, because it won't ever add duplicate from day one, right? So it will never contain more than one, but for us, it will do a contain. And notice how it is using the equals method. Do you notice? It is using the equals method. So if contains uses the equals method, I have to override the equals method to say when are my two objects. Otherwise, by default, it will use the equals method of the object class. And it will work, except it won't work correctly. Syntactically, it won't complain. Because it says, oh, your class doesn't have an equals method. I use the equals method of the object class, and that's how I compare. But that's not what you want. You are saying, if my stock already contains this object, I don't like, you can't add it. So we can do the opposite if you like. We can throw the exception first, whatever. It doesn't matter how you work with it, as long as you work correctly. So if I'm saying if the stock contains, or we'll say not contains, just so that the exception message is written afterward, whatever makes sense to you. Now, it contains this product that has been passed. I'm just wondering, I mean, I read about null. Maybe this check is not required and it will do it on its own. I mean, it will throw something. Anyway, so if it does not contain it, that means it's unique. ID is unique. So look at it. I didn't have to do anything because contains does it for me, but I had to do one small thing. I had to override the equals method. And anyway, if I was writing my for loop myself, I would still use my equals method because that's comparing my IDs. So the equals method is there. So if it does not contain it, add it. And if it does contain, we just have to throw an exception. So we'll say the product ID is not unique, you can say, or product by that ID already exists. And that's a good enough message. Make sense? Just the contains method. So now you know that there is a contains method also in the array list. So you've done a few size, not empty, clear. Now you know another one. And this one indirectly uses the equals, because I just showed you that it's saying O equals E. So it's calling the equal. So at this point of time, it is calling your equals method. You'll say, how can I double check? Write a system out println statement in your equal just for the heck of it, and it will come up. And you will know contains is calling equals. It does call equals. And that's right here. It's in the Java API. I'll give you a break. I see people are starting as soon as I see here. See, it's using the equals method. Right? Product added. That's your insert. Insert is done. That's your insert. Insert into table, values, and your product. So those values are coming through that parameter called product. You pass a whole values kind of whole clause. There could be another option. You could be passing 4 parameters here. You could be passing ID, name, quantity, and price. Then create a new product in your code, in your method, and then add it. It can be done. This is better. It's usually done this way. But as long as I have those 4 parameters, remember the constructor needs those 4. You will pass me something and I'll pass it back. So you could be having a different parameter list here, all 4, 3, 2, whatever, with default values to whatever doesn't work, and create a product and then that can be done. So that option is available. It's not wrong. This is more wrong. Right? Because you usually don't say, oh, here are the 4 values, now create a product and add. You usually say, here is the information to add the product and add. But it can be done. There's nothing. Parameters will be different. And you create the product yourself inside the method, and then the rest of the code will be. It can be done. Okay? We'll take a break here. Okay. So now I've done my searches and I've done my insert. I still have to do deletions and updates. Again, searches are not complete. I haven't done every search, but hopefully you can do it. Right? Okay, take a break and then come back in 20 minutes, please, and we'll continue. Have the other 2 girls dropped the course? Yeah, I didn't see them. then last time, I can't remember last time also they were absent, weren't they? I can't remember seeing your speak. I don't know. I know by tomorrow what's happening. Nice to see you again in class. I hardly ever see you, Naresh.
Yeah.
Yeah, so you're working?
Yeah.
Because I only saw you in midterm last.
Yeah, last week I was able to make class. 'Cause
For me till now, I've only seen you once on the midterm. I've never seen you in class.
Oh, I was in class.
No, you were? But you know your job, I see you on your board and your job. So I'm not so concerned about your learning because you said you were in class that because of some other guys you worked on. Okay, so you're just working, I mean, does your dad have a computer either?
No, I'm working with this.
So where do you practice your programming skills?
Just at home, like at online. It's like in doing JavaScript. We were trying to create it.
Oh, okay. Yeah, because from your code I can make out that you were taught your lambdas and stuff. Like that,
Yeah.
which of course we know that should, I don't know. Because these two students are still. But that's okay. Yeah, so hello, he knows his job. Right, of course. But
got a cold beverage. I don't know how she got a cold beverage.
What meeting was it?
That's not bad. Balance. Video contact. I have no idea why they're so confused.
Yeah. It's
And
the operations. Easier. What's wrong with that guy? That's what it is. It's upstairs. Fries under.
Yeah.
No, yeah. I've eaten here. I've eaten here once. Yeah, we even have some of our finest culinary students work on it.
I really can't stop like, you see that every day.
We're on blue up there.
It's dumb, it's dumb. Way healthier, way cheaper, I understand, but I don't pizza or cookies. Crap.
Like,
Even
the bottom
syrup.
run.
But you have to cut taking one, I used to eat the dining.
There's a dining room.
It's
Where
good.
the, database is. Database room at the bottom, it's got this big fucking wooden shit. Yeah.
It's cheap too, you get 50% off because your students get like a 3-course meal for $5.
Oh.
It's their food stuff.
They also serve food right at the doors where you're going inside.
That's what I was talking about, the bottom run.
Oh, that's what that is.
Yeah. But no, I thought the other thing was just like for vets, like the alumni association.
But you get breakfast there.
No. Trying to pull as much money as I can in this situation. Considering all the fees that we don't. Like the elevator, it's like, yeah, it's costs money.
You pay an elevator fee?
I always just say, like,
Oh,
I'll take it back. I live on the second floor. I work there. So then she like $180 each time I take that elevator up or down one floor. I'm doing. I prefer to take the stairs.
it's all about value.
Oh, man. Rent's so good. Looks like a building that like try to salvage them after the apocalypse. It's really trying to do $650 a month. You get that, which is half the kitchenette. Fridge and microwave, yeah. Fridge and microwave. And like the sink that all is clogged, and then like funny and fast. Mine is building two. They have one room. It's one room every floor, which is like very different. And then they have one unit for like the RAs over the academic semester, and then they're called community advisors over the summer semester, which are one bedroom, like could easily fit 3 people, but they're one bedroom shared with one person. Those will do good.
It's crazy.
We have lots that they gave us, we had free for the first 3 months, but. This office, come downstairs and take the elevator, cook, and go back. Might be talking about the spreads over there. Over that. So the campus one, another one is mine in each building. But one near the hospital. There's the Georgia Green residence, which I think are 4 or 5 people per unit. Yeah.
It's like,
Eventually.
it's like five rooms, but like every room has a washroom. Actually, it's pretty decent stuff.
Do you like having the space for skating?
Oh, you're right.
Okay, so let's go forward. And so searches and ads have been done. The simple methods I think I can leave to you, but I'll just add a simple one for you. If I want to find out how many products in stock, right? This is an easy one. So this method returns. And I'm not talking about the quantity. I'm talking about how many products, like the number of unique products. Let's say of unique products. That way. Of course, it doesn't want any parameter from you. It's returning you some information, and then it will return. It's a public method. Of course, it is returning an int, and then your usual get methods. I mean, there can be so many: get quantity, get price. You can have as many of these normal methods. Get number of products. It is different from quantity. I'll write that too for you. I mean, that's an easy one too. And all this method does is again, we don't have to do anything at all. We just take the stock and we say, what's your size? Use methods of the array list wherever you can. Right? So you don't do your counting yourself. You don't need a for loop to say, okay, for I count. You don't have to. So that's the beauty of classes, right? Classes have been defined. There are methods with the class. You have to know how to use those methods. That's one main part of Java. And then, of course, to write your own classes so that people who use your classes, they have methods to use. If I was interested in the quantity of every product, that would be a different method. That's like a select. So this method returns the quantity of a product in stock. You have to be careful. Maybe it's not in stock at all. It's not even listed there. So we have to always do a find before we look for an answer. Otherwise, you'll get an exception. So the product to be searched, maybe you can search by ID. Oops. You can have get quantity, you can have get price. All this is kind of automatic. And does it throw an exception? Yes, it throws an exception. Find is throwing an exception. This will also throw an exception. Product not listed. So I'm kind of trying to be clear that something is not listed and something is not in quantity, right? Oops. Product quantity equal to 0 is different from the product is not in stock. In unlisted. Let's see. I mean, I'm thinking if I need anything else, I'll add it. So this method gives you the quantity back. So you can call it get quantity if you like. There is a get quantity in the other one also, but I mean, of course, there is no relationship. Two methods can have the same name. But before even simply saying return, I give you an ID here, tell me how much of this is in stock. So even before saying, oh, shall I get the product? You first have to get the product because you have the ID. So what will you do? You will take the product, call it P if you like, and then find it first. Now it's using your find methods. Keep in mind, if it doesn't find it, it will automatically throw an exception. Because that throws an exception, therefore I'll have to add a throws here also. So that's another thing you have to remember. This method may not throw an exception, but it is calling a method that throws an exception. So it needs a throws clause here. So kind of as you're doing it, you're also learning how to kind of work with exceptions. So if you don't do that, you saw that red squiggly I had. I wasn't throwing any exception because I'm calling find product by ID that throws an exception. I have to either handle it. This method get quantity either needs to handle it or throw it. And again, class methods just don't bother. They throw it. The application handles it. Okay. And if you found it, so it will kind of, when you try to find it, it will return itself if there is a problem. Otherwise, all you have to do is you have to return P, get the quantity of P. There, that's how you work. So you're asking the inventory manager, what's the quantity of this product in stock? The manager goes to the product itself and says, what's quantity inside you? So we have a get quantity there. We call it here. And then, I mean, I've given the same name. You could call them different. But the concept is, who are you going to ask for the quantity? You can only ask the product, how much do you have? Remember, because quantity is a attribute of the product. So you ask the product, what's your quantity? But before you do that, find out, is it even listed in stock? Is it one of the products? So you just can't ignore this and say, oh, there it is. What if P is not a valid product? Then what do? Right? You can't write it. So theoretically, you will see, oh, that's what was asked and that's what I've given. But if you bring your mouse here, it's saying something. It says, oh, cannot find P. That's one thing for sure. So you have to find it anyway because I've given an ID. But you just can't say, oh, I'll just go and here's the quantity. So you find the product, and from the product, you find the quantity. Okay. So indirectly. So you're asking the inventory manager what's in stock, and the inventory manager talks to the product and says, what's your quantity? And if there is quantity, there is price also. I mean, you could be asking these questions. You just have to remember how to ask them. Indirectly, the inventory manager is asking the product. So let's try that. So we'll write another one. And again, there's no end to it. I can say get price. Again, you could be getting price by ID. You could be getting price by name, but ID is better because it's unique, right? So if you're looking for price of a unique product, then you wouldn't be saying price. You wouldn't be passing name to it. You would be passing ID to it. It doesn't make sense. So this method returns the price of a. It's not so tough. It's kind of same thing. You give the ID if the product is not listed. Right? And then here, instead of saying get quantity, get the price of the product. There it is. Fine. So indirectly, what is it? It is a table of products. It is a table of products. So from inside the product, if you want to look at some value, you ask the inventory for it, and the inventory takes the help of the method of the product to find it. But you can do it without a find. You can never do it without a find, because the first thing is the product listed in my stock? If it is, yes, find it. And I don't use an if here. Why? Because what isn't it like now?
Return types
Float? Okay, thank you. Yeah. Right. So, but this is the first job. And I don't throw an exception. My method is not throwing it. I still have a throws clause because the find product by ID can throw an exception. And it will. If it is not found, it will simply say this product is not listed in stock. So of course it doesn't return with the quantity of the price. Right. So there is always that link, right? It's you're talking. You never talk to the product. You talk to the inventory manager. The manager talks to the product. So that means now if I want to sell one of my products, sell will affect what? Quantity. Remember, sell says quantity will change. So now you're updating your records. You could be updating them straight, change the quantity, change the price, and so on. You can change the ID. ID was final something. There was something with ID. Did I make it final? I forget now. You shouldn't be able to change. There was no set method, but you can also make it final if you like. And the name. Did we make it final in our product? Double check. What did we do? No, we didn't make it final. Did I make set ID at least a private method? I think these two cannot be changed, right? Yeah, that's private. Okay. Another thing that you could add actually, which is neat, is to say that they cannot be changed. You can always put final here. I think you'll have to do one small thing with final. I may get a problem. No, it's fine. I can even do this. See, what did I do? Because names and IDs cannot be changed, I made them final instance variables. This can be done. So you can only assign them a value once. That's what is allowed, only once. Till now you've seen final where you give the value right there. You say whatever is equal to. You've used them for named constants, right? Now I'm using final here not for a named constant. It's not a named constant as per se, but this ensures that I can change ID again. I can only do it once. And where have I done it only once? In my constructor. I only do it once in my constructor. I can't do it. I can't change it from anywhere else. Try doing it. If you, I mean, just for the heck of it, if I try to assign a value to the ID here, like 5, I'm going to get a problem there. Because it will say, bring your mouse over it, it will say, cannot assign a value to a final variable. So this is another use of final. I mean, so I've ensured it. One way I had ensured it was that method was private. I made it a private method. So private method means you can't call it from outside the class. So set ID can only be called from inside class, set name can only be called. But I didn't ensure that it cannot be changed again in the class. Now I've ensured that twice. If in the first definition when final was absent, I could have done something like I was doing really something silly. You don't do it in the get method, but you could change it. Now I can change it. What isn't it like now? What is it saying? Oh, it doesn't even want it in the set method. It says you have to do it right here. That means you can't even have a set method. This is what you can do. You can only kind of make it right here. That's what it is saying. Even a private set method is not working. You'll have to do it right here. So this one also. I think that's what it is saying. I'll double check. That's my understanding of that error message. Yep, you can't even write a private set method. It's ensuring that you can only assign it a value once in the constructor, but not using a set method right there with an assignment statement. So now I can't change ID from outside. I can't do it. The first one was partially done. See what was the, it just occurred to me when I was talking. When I had this and I didn't have final, I was okay. But what I forgot is if I don't write final here, I said, okay, set your private method, and I was okay, but it's still saying the same thing. What am I missing? Is it something else? Name is also final? Oh, okay, so it is still final. Okay. Okay, good, right? Now I was okay, and I was saying, oh, I can do it from outside class, my private, but I didn't think of what if I do this? Like I'm just doing it. It's very silly to do it here, but what if I do this? Still doesn't like it. This dot ID? No, why is it? What is it complaining about now? Oh, ID is a string. Okay. This is not, I can do this. That's changing the ID. So nowhere should you be able to change the ID, nowhere. So the only way, make this change. Definitely this is not taking care of it. So please do this, make this variables final. Right? So a named constant, one, you use it in a name constant. Two, when you want to say that a variable is final, that means once it is assigned a value, you cannot change it, then you can't even call the set method. Like not even a private set method is allowed. This is the only way you can do it. That's it. So this change is necessary in our code. Once it's ensuring two things. The uniqueness I've taken care in add, but the final I have to take care here. Once you assign a value to your product, you cannot change it. And same with name. That's what we've done with name. It was not necessary to do it with name. I kind of did it with name, I think. I said, once you give it a name, you can change names. But there is no uniqueness of names. So now your set methods are useless. Like you don't even need them. You don't even need them. But the advantage is this. I can do this. It's going to give me an error. We can't reassign it. Okay, so at least good that it just came. I mean, it just came out of the blue. I didn't think of it when we were writing the product class. I thought making a private set has taken care of it. It hasn't, because I can still change it within the class, right? And I shouldn't be able to do that too. So that change definitely needs to be made. Okay, let's come back to the product now. Where were we? Stock manager. Right, so get quantity is a simple method, but notice how it is calling the get quantity of P. Similarly, and you can do it for everything. Like you can give an ID and say, what's your name? So you know the ID, but you don't know the name. You can have a get name method also. What it will do the same thing. It will, instead of price, now you're returning the name of it. So these are all small searches, and there are so many that you can write. This method returns the name of the product. Price needs to be returned, whose name needs to be returned. If the product is not listed, get name. All these methods that you've written there are now becoming useful here. I think it was called get name. And of course, the return type will be a string. There it is. That's get name. So I could write maybe, I don't know, maybe 50 methods in the same class, as long as they are useful. Right? So here's another searches, 3 searches. They just came to my mind when I was saying how many in the list. So get the quantity of a product, get the price of the product, get the name of the product. So select name where ID is equal to 5. Select quantity where ID is equal to 5. Select price where ID is equal to 5. That's what it is doing. Right? Now let's go to, I better start doing my updates. Otherwise it won't end. Okay, now how do we update? Now updates can be done directly. Like you can pass a value. That's what I was talking about. That's why ID and name couldn't be changed. If you want to change the quantity, you can pass it to the stock, and the stock can pass it to the product. Similarly for price. Or another way of updating quantity is selling the product. So now I don't call the product sell yourself. I say inventory sell the product. So I have to sell a product through the inventory. Keep in mind, product is now behind. The application will not Except creating a product, it will never talk to the product. It will always talk to the inventory because this is your manager. The inventory is your manager. So you won't say P, sell yourself. You will say inventory, sell the product. Right? So you never talk to P. The only time when you will talk to P in your application will be when you create the product. That's it, the constructor. All talking has to be done through the inventory manager. Everything you have to do through the inventory manager. So let's try to sell now. Let's try to sell a product. So this method sells a product, sells one unit. Remember, there were two methods. And of course, it will need an ID. Which one do you want to sell? And it will throw an exception because it may not be in. There are a few exceptions that I'll throw. And we'll kind of complete it when I finish writing the method. Okay, so what does this method do? It's a public method, returns nothing. Let's call it sell product again. Same name that you gave to the other method. Keep in mind, we don't talk to the product, we talk to the inventory manager. Therefore, we need a manager. That's our manager, our stock manager. Okay, you sell a product. And how do you sell a product? Of course, if you want to sell a product, you have to give me an ID. Right? So what happens? The first thing, see if the product even exists. How can you sell something that doesn't exist? So notice how useful those find methods are coming. So you try to find that product by ID. Now, if the product is not even listed, it will throw an exception. So let's fill that up here. So when will you throw an exception? If product does not exist. I mean, is not listed is what I'm saying. But it is basically does not exist. That's one when it will throw an exception, right? What isn't it like? Unreported, okay. Which is good that it tells you. I mean, sometimes I think it's a boon that it tells you what's wrong, but then the other time you don't think about it because it ultimately tells you. Okay, now if the product is listed and I want to sell one of it, its quantity could be 0, I don't know. It is there, but what is its quantity? I don't know. But since this check has already been done in your product, remember how you sold a product? The sell method of product was taking care that you can only sell, oh, come on, you can only sell if there are more in stock. So this method is already taking care of it. I won't bother to do it again. All I'll say is stock manager, it will say product, sell yourself. It takes the help of the sell product method, and therefore that method has to be in that class. Why? Because the quantity is being affected, and quantity is an instance variable of the product class. So again, when you start writing more classes, your next job, you will see next week I'll write a project with 4 classes. All classes have to talk to each other. We are still stuck at 2. I did a card game that used 2 classes. Here I have another 2 classes. But you have to kind of increase its complexity now. So the next is creating 4 classes in the same project, each talking to each other. So now this inventory manager is telling the product to sell itself, right? And if it doesn't have enough, it throws an exception. So if product is not listed or not in stock, both cases you will have an exception thrown. So the product is there, but the quantity is 0. I can't sell it. I'm only selling 1 here. Right? So again, I called it the same just not to confuse you, but because it makes sense. Sell a product. Inventory, sell a product. Now, instead of 1, you may be selling more than 1. Remember, I could sell more than 1. Let's write this one now. So this is sell product. What did we call it there? It had a name too. Sell products, I think. I'll keep the same name now, as I said, just so that sell. Oh, it had a parameter. Okay. So it was called, oops. Where am I? Stock manager. Okay. So let's write It needs two. It needs an ID and it needs how many are you selling. So you can sell one of a product. We had two methods there. I'm just trying to match them. We can sell a product and we can sell some number of products. Again, the same thing. You try to find the product. If it is found, good. If it is not even listed, it will throw an exception. So if it is saying if product is not listed or not in stock or not enough in stock, let's say, because now you're selling amounts. You're saying sell 5 of these, sell 10 of this, and so on. Now, something that you could do extra, though you don't have to do it because ultimately it will be done. If the product is not found, it will throw an exception. Good. If the product is present, but there is not enough in stock, then it will again throw an exception because that method is throwing an exception. If you don't even want to do this, why should I do this even why should I do it if my amount is less than or equal to 0? You can write your own exception right here too. What are you saving? You're saving 2 calls. You don't have to find it. You don't have to call that method. You don't have to sell that product. So you can throw a new exception by itself, though it is being taken care of in the product class, but this one saves me that extra work. You can actually have the same message. The product, the amount or the units to be sold should be cannot be or should be greater than 0. Try to put positive message. There. So this is extra work. Like it is extra work, but you're saying why need I even find the product or try to sell it when the amount you've given me is incorrect? Though ultimately it will be caught in the second call at P sell product because that method is doing it. It checks for amount less than 0. So every class does its own defensive program. And I'm saving 2 calls by this. So I have an if here, but then I won't go here at all if the amount is less than 0. So the amount to be sold should be greater than 0. So you catch it right here. So you can now add this. There's a third condition now. My exception, when if amount to be sold is less than or equal to 0, or if product is not listed or not enough in stock. So 3 exceptions in any 3 with proper messages. This one is saying the amount to be sold should be greater than 0. If you can't find the product, it will say the product is not listed. And the third one will come up with the problem if there is not enough in stock. Right? So every error, you have to think of every error to be caught. So I did this right here. I know it's kind of extra because this method does it. See, this one I'll show you here. It also does it. It does it too. But I'm saying, why even go there? Like, why even ask for help? Why even say, oh, are you there? Can you sell yourself? If the amount itself is not. So you could count this as redundant code, but it's making it more efficient. Right? The efficiency has increased. So the code is more. There's one more if statement, but the efficiency has increased. We'll say how efficiency 2 calls have been saved. I don't have to call find product if, of course, if it throws an exception, and I don't have to sell it. That's update. That's 2 kind of indirect updates. Of course, you can always update directly. Directly means change your quantity, change your price. But these are indirect updates. There is another one. There is an indirect update with add stock. Remember, there is an add stock. Let's call that 2. So you want to add in a stock, like changing the quantity. Here. So this method. Now, if you remember, and Ryan had pointed it out, but my add stock method is adding to a stock. So it never takes a negative amount. I mean, though, if I just said restock, it would be maybe add or subtract. But keeping to the code that I have, I've said add stock will always add to the stock. And of course, if you want to add to stock, then you will have to see that it is positive. That's what I've done, right? This method adds, what should I say? Adds quantity or increases. That's what it does. Adds more of a product in stock. Kind of, I don't know. I don't know if I have a better. Okay, instead of saying add units of a product in stock, maybe. Maybe better. Okay, so where do you want to add it? Two things. Where do you want to add it and how many do you want to add? Those will become your parameters. Right, so when you think of parameters, think this way. What does it need? I want to add some of a product in stock. So what do I need? I need to, of course, have a param, the ID, the product ID, to be restocked. Let's call it restocked, right? We are doing restocking. And of course, the amount. This is the one that gets added. Oops. Restocked. Doesn't like that word. Okay, there it is. An amount, by how much do you want to add, right? The units to be added. The units of the product. So you should be able to figure out the parameters yourself, because what does the method do? Increase the quantity of a product. So it's public. Again, I'm not going with booleans at all. My error messages are working. So I can call it add stock again. Same name that I gave to the other one. There is an ID that is coming, and there is an amount that is coming. Okay, same thing. You have to check if the amount is less than 0. And of course, change the amount to be added should be greater than 0. And of course, it will throw exceptions. There are so many it will throw. And the same thing. We'll write the add throws in a minute. I'll copy it if it works for me. So let's see when it throws an exception. In what case is in our case? At least I have to change it. Okay, so the first thing when it is throwing an exception, if amount to be added instead of sold is less than or equal to 0. That's the first time. Or if the product is not listed, or nothing. Because I don't have a maximum quantity. I'm not considering that right now. Okay, so again, if amount is less than 0, the amount to be added or the units, oops, its spelling is wrong. The amount spelling is wrong from where I've copied. You can say units here. The units to be added should be greater than 0. Else do what? Same thing. Find your product. Because they do the same kind of stuff, right? Every time find your product. Again, if the product was not found, it will throw an exception, which works for us. But if the product is found, then what do? P, add to your stock the amount that I give you. And this will take care of the rest. So if you're using your old product class, I am not using it, then your maximum quantity and all that will also kind of come in picture. They will. Right? I just didn't do it because I didn't have time with the other section. And so I thought, you know what, at least if I can create this is just giving you more, that at least you can do it yourself. This is adding to stock. And I have purposely kept the names same so that you can draw a parallel between. So when I add to inventory, I basically add a product, okay? But you don't have to. It's not necessary. You don't have to. Now, if you wanted to change the price of something, so are we okay with this? Okay, so let's change the price, which is again an update. So see, all I'm doing is searches and selects. Selects and searches are the same thing. Insert with an add, that was the only insert I could do because insert doesn't have variations. Select has where clauses, right? Therefore, I mean, you could say maybe if I don't want to add price, yeah, you could do it. I mean, you can do those things, but I stuck to one. Okay, so this method changes the price. All these are updates. Oops. Definitely, if you want to change the price of a product, what do you need? The new price. So you say change the price. You can even change the quantity without adding the stock. You could just say change it, though usually we don't, but we can do that too. So I want to change the price. So definitely you need the new price. And this can happen. I can change the ID, I can change the name, but I can change the price of a product. They change price. You can change the quantity also if you like. Indirectly, it is being changed through sell product and restock. But if you wanted to, you could. It can be done, but this is more logical. Changing the price is more logical, so I'm writing it. Okay, so it takes a price, the new price of the product, and of course it will throw exception. Why? Because what if the product does not exist? And if price cannot be less than 0, or product is not in stock, is not listed, is not valid. Maybe I should have said valid from day one, but anyway, I've said not listed, so I'll stick to that. You could have said is not a valid product. Valid product means it's not even in stock, like it's not a valid product. So public returns nothing. Let's say set price. Again, keeping the same name just so that you can make a connection. So the new price is a float. You can call it whatever. I've called it float. Oh, sorry, I've called it price. And this will again throw exception. And I'll again do my check here. I'll throw an exception right here. Though again, this is being done. Oh, this is being done. So is it too much to same concept? Do you want to even call find first, or do you just want to? I can avoid this here actually. Let me find the product. I mean, it can be done in two different ways. Let me try to find the product. So I can save one call without an extra if. Oops. So find the product. See how handy this find product is. Therefore, you write a method. I've used it in almost every method. So if you find a product and it is not found, it will stop right here. It will throw an exception and stop. But if you have found it, then what does it do? It takes, it goes here. I can save it. I can. There it is. Oh, okay. The new ID. So see, if I do this, ultimately it will be caught. If my price is less than 0, set price will catch it. It will catch it. But I've been doing the extra work to kind of say, oh, why should I even bother? So if price is less than or was 0 allowed? Did we allow 0? Equals set price. Okay, 0 was also not allowed. So if my price is less than or equal to 0, cell, this is cell. I did a control F and I've lost it again. Set ID. Okay, there it is. 0 is also not allowed. So I've again made a check. Why even go and find the product or set its price? Check it. If it is invalid, throw an exception right here. Else do the check. So you can even write a set quantity if you want. Like you just want to change the quantity. Though I mean it's not very practical. You just don't go and change the quantity. If you want to change the quantity, you add stock. You restock it. That's how quantity changes. But you can do that too. But this is logical. This seems logical. You want to change the price of a product. See, so all methods are coming handy. All methods that you wrote in the product class are indirectly being called here. And then the question arises, why did you even write it in the product class? I wrote it in the product class because they are related to the product. They are affecting the state of the object. They are affecting the instance variables of the product. And anything that affects the instance variables has to be in that class. Because that class is independent. Right? It just is independent. It should have its own methods to change, get, and everything. So we wrote it there, but because inventory is nothing but a collection of products, it calls them to do the job. So you can't say, oh, if you have, why do you do it? Why have you even written it there? Why don't you do that right here? Because it's not a method of the inventory, it's a method of the product. So again, when you start creating classes and you start linking them, you have to be very careful what methods should go in what classes. And maybe you'll have to call them again in the upper class, like in the one that is using them. And that's exactly what I'm doing. I'm still calling it, but I won't remove it from there. That is the right place to place the set price and the set quantity. So you could write a set quantity. I don't want to, because I mean, there is situation will hardly come where you will change the quantity like out of the blue. I mean straight. I mean, you won't need to. Okay, so my updations are done. All that remains is deletions. So searches are done, insert is done, updates are done. I can't update the ID, so I don't have a set ID. Cannot update the name, so I don't have a set name. The quantity, I'm doing it through cells and restock, so I didn't do the extra one. And the set price is changed by the set price. All 4 fields can be updated. Right? Though setting the quantity is not a big deal, but they are. So now all that remains is, so think of it. All I'm doing is I'm writing your select, insert, update, and delete statements in MySQL. I'm writing them here. I'm just giving them a different name. I can't call them select, insert, update, and delete. And then if you would like to work with it as if you are writing a statement, I'll show you how to do it in the application. Okay, so let's quickly write this. This method removes a product from the inventory. Delete, right? You can delete all by saying clear. If you want to do a delete star, no condition, that's a clear. That's a clear, right? If you clear the whole array list, everything is gone. That's like your delete star from table. That's clear for you. But here, this one removes a product from the stock. So that's the one I'm writing, just removing it. Again, it will, of course, need the ID. The ID of the product to be removed. And of course, it will throw an exception because I'll search for it. If product does not exist, is not listed, or when else? Only then, nowhere else. Okay, so it's a public method. Returns nothing. Is called remove. You can call it delete if you like. Remove product or remove whatever. You can call it remove all, whatever you like. And it needs a string. We'll write a remove all also. You can do a remove all also. It's just clearing. Though I can show you another way also of removing. I'll show you the use of remove all also. Just because I think another student did ask me. Okay. Okay. So now all I have to do is find the product. So find the product. So it will automatically throw an exception if you couldn't find it. If you found it, all you have to do is nothing. It's not a big job at all for us. There is a remove method right in the array list. Notice how it says remove. There are 4 of them. There is a remove where you remove an object. So actually, you could also give an object and say remove this product completely. I'll show you how to write that too. You are saying remove at a particular position, right? And you're saying remove a whole collection. You can remove all products by the name keyboard, for example. You can also do that. That is where remove all will come handy. The clear is not coming in remove because clear is a different method. You can just clear the whole stock, everything empty. You can do that too. I'll show you remove all also. So here, what do you have to remove? You have to remove this product P. Oops. Oh. Job done. Now you know the remove method also. Right? I didn't traverse the list. I didn't product, sorry. Let me show you how do you want to remove products by a name if you want. With ID, it will always be a single product. But you can say something like this, delete from table where name is equal to keyboard. And again, you can remove by whatever you want. Remove all products with quantity less than 5. Remove all products with price between 5 and 10. You can have as many removes as you want. Why? Because all these have where condition. So you can do whatever you like. I mean, not whatever you like, whatever your application wants you to do. So if your client says, oh, I should be able to remove anything that's less than $10, then you need a method, right? The product. It is just one because I'm searching by ID. So if you want to remove all products by a name, right? Let's do that. Remove all products by a name, because that's the only one that all with the price or all with the quantity, because ID can only remove one, because each ID only has one corresponding record. But let's look at the other one. So if I wanted to remove, what am I calling them? Remove. So if I wanted to remove more products, and I can't overload it because I'm passing it a string again, though it is a name. What would you do? You will first find all that match the name and then remove all of them. Name or price equal to 5 or quantity equal to 10. I mean, this is a big move. This is a big remove. How will you do that? Create a local array list of products. Oops, sorry. Create a local array list of products, right? And now search by name. Remember, we have that find by name method. So why will I search again? I'm only going to call that method that was called find. There it is, by name. What does it return you? It returns you a whole list. Is it throwing an exception? No, it isn't. What am I saying? What am I doing wrong? What am I doing wrong? Incompatible types product cannot be converted to array list. Oh, it was find products by name. That's why. Name. Now what doesn't it like? Throws an exception? Yep, there it is. Throws an exception. Using the wrong method. They're complaining. I said product by name. That was returning the first product. This is the one that returns all the products. See, all I have to do is this now. How to remove all. Take your stock, use the remove all method, and pass this products list to it. All gone. There. Remove all method. Right? So you have to know what methods exist. Same as if I'm going to use this class. When I use this class in an application, I should know, oh, how do I use it? I have to know the names of the methods, and I have to know the names of it needs and so on. I'm only able to use remove all of the stock class because there is a remove all there. So why will I do it? Why will my code do it? I'll just say, oh, you do it for me. And the one that clears it completely. So this one is basically, so this method removes all products from the stock by the same name. So I'm taking a name here. I should have even said ID there. I haven't said it. But anyway, the name of the product to be removed if the product is not listed. So this is saying if you have more than one, I just wanted to show you remove all. If it was only the first occurrence, you could have just used remove. But the remove all says, okay, find the products by that name first. And I didn't repeat my code. I didn't rewrite my for loop again because I already have a method that's doing it for me. That method is returning me an array list. I put it in a local one. Actually, I don't even need this local array list. I could have taken this call and put it right here. Like, why even create a temporary array list? You can even do it right here. You can make that call right here. That returns an array list. You can do it right here also, and you're okay. Like, I mean, that's right too. So you don't have to create a local one because locals are waste anyway, right? What will you do with the local after you're done? Nothing. So why even create it? So I would prefer you to write 238 instead of 235 and 37. But again, to show you that if a method returns an array list, you must be saving it in memory. You have to know how to call methods and what are they returning. So how are they to be called? What are they returning? Where do I save them? How do I use them? Everything has to be clear. Right now, if you want to clear the whole list, the inventory, empty the inventory completely. Oops. Uh-oh. You're basically saying, okay, I'm out of business, right? Everything has to go. So I don't know, what do we say? Clears or empties? You've seen this in your exam, but there it is, using the clear method. It needs nothing from you, right? No parameters, no returns. Oh, I'll tell you something that I just thought about in remove all. Public, void. You can call it clear inventory if you like, or clear stock. And all it does is take your stock, use the clear method of the array list, and there you go, done. The entire stock gone. Delete star from table. It's not null, it has emptied it, right? So that's delete star from table. Table exists, but the records are gone. Same thing. There's a difference between this and stock equal to null. Please understand they're two different things. If I initialize, if I assign it a value null, that object doesn't exist. But if I'm clearing it, the object exists, but there is nothing in the stock. So I don't want to do this. I don't want to do this. I want to just clear it. So all records gone. Delete star from. Now, just because I was doing it, I want to tell you something just out of the blue. The remove all method how do you get help in navigate? Go to source. Okay, that's how it does it. Eclipse will show you the method there itself. Go to source means it will take me where the code is, right? I'm hoping. Yeah, there it is. Notice how remove all is returning a Boolean value. I have not used it. I didn't use it. That means I kind of ignored what is coming back. I just said, I don't care. I can do that. I mean, nothing stops you from doing it. But if you wanted to do it, you could have made this return a Boolean. And then you could have said, return stock remove all. So if remove all returns true, you further return true. If it returns false, you further return. So I can ignore the return values of methods if I don't need them. You can only ignore them if you don't need them. But if you need them, like at line number 235, if I need them, then I can't ignore them. Like if I don't save it, if I don't save it in a local array, then how can I say remove all products? I have to save it in a local array to remove it. So where can you ignore and where you can't ignore will depend upon what you want to do. So I can do a return here if I like. I could. Nothing, because I'm not written any of my methods with returning Boolean values. I didn't use it, but you could. So what has happened? Stock remove all is done. That method returns a Boolean value and you further return it, and therefore your return type becomes. So you can just write in the same return statement, you can do it. You could have done it right here too, like return stock or whatever. But I chose not to use it. I didn't write it. I said it doesn't matter. So you can always go and see what the method is doing. So this says I'm returning a remove all and so on. It's not, I don't like this way, but of course, if you go here and say remove all, and let's see what does it return? True and false, of course, but under what cases? What does it do? It says remove all true if this list changed as a result of the call, which it will, but still, they still have a Boolean. That's what it says. Return true if this list changed as a result of the call. So it's kind of ensuring, yeah, it has been. Okay. Or you may say, if it comes back with false, you're saying there is no product by this name existing. You know, things like it could be inferred in many ways, but I have my own name method, find product by name. So I'm not even bothering to see what you're returning. I'm just kind of using my own method. So that's remove products. That's a simple remove, only removing a product, and that's cleared the stock. And I could go on and on. Like there is so much, like you could add more methods. So I've done a delete by ID, I've done a delete by name, and I have done delete all, delete stuff. So try to see the parallel now. Now comes, okay, everything is ready. So somebody has already made it ready for you. Select, insert, delete, and update already exists. When you write your own script, you use it. Now let's write our own script. And that script in Java has to be written in name. That's your script, that's your application, right? That's your application. You only have to know what were they called in my class. So of course, let's see how it has to be done. So if you go to your main now, there are a few things I'm doing here, which I should just maybe ignore. You have this copy anyway, right? So I'll kind of remove it because it's better to start fresh than trying to fix problems. So I'm going to remove everything from here. You have this copy anyway if you need it. And there it is. Try, catch, and so on. Okay, that's okay. We'll see when it comes. And again, you can add whatever catches you like. To me, there was no arithmetic exception. There was an illegal argument exception, actually. Maybe I can change this to illegal. It was an illegal one. You catch whatever exceptions are being thrown by your classes. And always, it's always a good idea to put a catch at the end, which is basically saying, oh, of everything. Okay. It's just a good idea. Again, defensive programming. Just defensive programming. So I know that I have my exception being thrown. I know I have illegal argument exceptions being thrown, only in one though, and I know that I have a catch being thrown. So I catch all of them. Now here is where you will start writing your script. This is the place where you write your script. Right? So your methods are ready, everything is ready, now write your script. So what do you do? Think of it. What do you do in your relational database? You create a database, then you create your table, and then you insert it into the table. We'll follow the same steps. We don't have to create a database, but we need to create products, right? And then insert it. Okay, so start it. So if you can draw a parallel, I'll create a few products. Okay, so create a few products. Create a product called P1. Go new product. And what does it need? Oh, what does it need? It had 4 things, right? If it could help me. Control space bar. There it is. Okay, so it needs an ID. It needs a name. It needs a price. No, the third was, I forget. Price and quantity or quantity and price? Price comes last, quantity and price. Quantity, let's say 5, and a price of, let's say $50. One product is created, right? So you can create a few products. So you're basically creating products so that then you can insert them. So this is like your table being created, like your products being created. So create a few of them, some with the same name, some with different names so that you can test. Create a P2. And maybe this one is a mouse. I don't know. Kind of same price, but I don't know. Keyboards are more expensive than mouse. They should be. Haven't bought something in a while. I'll kind of put a F here to show you that, oh, you need an F for floating numbers. And you can start creating or whatever you want. So if you want to keep them same, you know what? Let's do it one by one. Here. What are you expecting when I try to add these products? P1 should be added and P2 should throw an exception. Why? Same ID. Right? So go step by step. Let's do it step by step. So now let's try to add it. So to add it, I need a stock manager. You can call it my inventory, you can call it stock or whatever you want to call it. Really doesn't matter. Let's call it inventory here just for the heck of it. And all I have to do is new stock manager. Did not need any parameters from me. Right? So notice P1 has an ID of 1 and P2 also has an ID of 1. So the first problem that must come up is when I try to add to my stock. So the method was add stock, come up, add product. Okay, when I try to add P1, I should be okay. But when I try to add P2, it should throw an exception. Right, this should throw an exception. So now you're testing it. But in a way, the testing can be done in 2 ways. You can do it like this, and you can, of course, write your tester class, which will something that you will do. I won't do. But this is like writing your script in MySQL. That's what you're doing, kind of, if you think of it, right? Okay, now this should throw an exception. Why? Because, I mean, I could be adding the same product also, but P2 also has the same ID. But if you try to add P1 and you try to add P1 again, it will definitely complain. Why? Their IDs are same. P1 and P1 have the same IDs, it's the same product, but even P2 has the same ID, run it. Oh, this is causing problems. Where is it causing problems? Oh God, so many red squigglies. Cannot assign, okay. Can I just remove the set methods then, please? Once we've done it, let's remove it, okay? Product 1 is also creating problem, though product 1 has not been even touched. I didn't even touch it. Was I making changes in, oh, how silly am I? Oh God, I was doing it in the wrong file. Yuck. That's why I'm saying, here, oops. Final. If you've done it in the right one, you are good to go. I'm not good to go. So I'll quickly do it. Thankfully, I have it here, so I can just comment this one out. This one. This one, there, job done. Semicolon missing, but you don't even need a job done. Now it will cry about the set method, right? Set, where are you? Oh, it's not saying anything at all. It should. Did I make them final? Yes, I did final and final. Oh, now it says it. It's just slow. Set here. So you'll have to remove your set methods completely now because it's final variables. So remove them. I'm removing them. Doesn't make sense to keep them. Okay, there you are. Now we should be okay. And I'll kind of, in your product one, I'll not make these changes so that I don't have to bother. Are we okay? No red squigglies anywhere. There it is. So if you had done it in the right file, I had by mistake done it in the wrong file. So I had to do it. So please see that these variables are final. Since they are final, you have to use an assignment statement and you have to remove your set methods. So I've made these variables final. I'm trying to do it. I can't change it in the class. I can't change it outside the class. Nothing, nowhere. And that's the right way to do it. Now go back and run your code now. That's all I've written for now. That's all I've written. I don't have much to do. I mean, one by one we'll do it. Like you do your unit testing, one thing at a time. Run it. You should have a problem. The problem should be there. The product ID is not unique. The spelling is wrong. Product by the ID already exists. Cannot add product. I cannot add it. Yes.
So the maximum quantity never actually sets.
No, because yeah, that's why it's creating problem. Therefore, I went back to the old product class. You see, that's why. Because there are so many more things going on in the advanced product that I won't be able to do that. I removed everything from my tester actually. But then it will start creating problem as soon as you start doing that. Why? Because you're trying to set the quantity at 5, maximum quantity is 0. And it will give you an exception.
Sorry, this is just confusing with that background. You're going to upload this again to us.
Yes, I will. I'll upload what I'm doing. Yes. Yeah, it's very disturbing. Right? So since you have the newer version of product, you will have those exceptions. So what did I say? I said just copy the old one, and the old one is available on Blackboard and the Tuesday session. So I did that to save myself from this because we didn't complete it before the beginning. Remember, we were on it. So instead of putting time in there, I thought I put effort in here so that we're doing something new, right? So if you want to pick up the old product class, the one I'm using, if you want, it's 339, but anyway. Here, very quickly, I mean, if you want to work with me, but it's only 10 minutes, so it's not a big deal. You can always pick it up afterwards. But here, it's right here. You can pick it up from right here. It's under weekly learning. The only thing you have to do is you have to go to the Tuesday section to pick it up. They have it. The last one that they did yesterday here. You can pick it up from here, the product Java. Just pick that up and replace your data. I made a copy just in case because there was quite a bit of work we did, right? But we didn't complete it. So you can pick it up from here and replace your product.java and you're good to go. You're good to go with what I am doing. But again, as I said, since these are the last 10 minutes, you can just You can just work with me. So my spelling was wrong. It came from somewhere, but that's okay. I mean, I will make those changes afterwards. But somewhere I've said product already exists. So in the add method, the spelling was wrong, which is fine, but not fine otherwise. But in the add stock method, it's doing it. So when you see something, you know you haven't done it right, just go and change it. Okay. It's a small spelling mistake. There it is, add product. Product by ID. Oh, there it is. There it is. Okay. Okay, so one job done. So now I'm writing your script, right? This is as if I'm writing your script. So I can't add P2 because P2 has the same ID as P1. I can't do it. So once I know I can do it, I'll comment it out because otherwise I'll stop. I'll add another third product, add a third product. I'll call it P3 and I'll change its ID to 2. There it is. Add another product. Let's make a F4, P4, sorry. So that you can check your methods. Let's call this guy keyboard. If you want to kind of stick with your 3 and 4 so that they don't confuse you, keep the same number. P3 has 3, P4 has 4. And I've called it keyboard just because, just as I said, then I can show you a few more things. And you can change the prices if you like. Quantity, you could change the quantity if you like, whatever works for you. So mouse are in more quantity. Let's make it 15. This keyboard is in 10 maybe, right? And maybe this is priced a little, it's more, it's instead of $100, it's $150. I've created 4 products. P1, valid keyboard 5 in quantity, 150 cents. P2 is something I won't use, only to show you that the exception was coming. P3 is a mouse for $50. And P4 is again a keyboard, but notice since it is ID is different, it is a different keyboard altogether. And it is priced at $150. Right? I'm just going with integers because it is easy. Now add your P1, P2, P3, and P4. Of course, P1 can be added, P2 cannot be added, P3 can be added, and P4 can be added. And P4 can be added. So 4 products have been added. Right? Now you can start playing with it. Now when you say, what do I want to do? You can start doing your searches. Right? Remember you said, oh, is there a product with ID 1? Is there a product with keyboard? Are there products with keyboard? You can start now doing that. And those methods were either throwing an exception or returning you the product. So here you'll have to print them out. Only then will you know. So let me show you a table as if you were seeing it in your MySQL. So let's do an out.println. And you will say, what was the stock manager? Inventory. Is there a product in you by the name of, or by the ID of 1? That's your search. Select inventory where ID is equal to 1. Select inventory where ID is equal to 1. You should see a table. Right? You should be able to see a table. Run it. Run this. And product is not unique. Now, which product is not unique? P1, P3, P4. P1, P3, P4. P1, P3, P4. P1, why is it giving that error now? It's throwing an exception. Control S. Why is it throwing an exception? That means there is a problem somewhere. P1 should be added. P3 should be added. Okay, we have a problem. It's giving an exception that should not come up. The product is not unique. So that means add product method, something is wrong. Go back. And that's how you test it, right? So something is wrong. That exception message should not come up. Why is it coming up? Add product. Did I somewhere some small thing not needed? Stock manager. Add product. If product is equal to null, the product to be added must exist. So that's not it. If it does not contain it, if does not contain it. Okay, so that means something contains. Contains is using equals. Go back to your equals.
I think your equals, I think.
My equals? Yeah, something in the equals. See, I don't see a problem here. So something in my equals. So go back to equals now. Equals, equals, equals. There it is, equals. Get the product and return what? If this ID, oh, it is returning a true, wait, what does it return? This ID is equal to the ID. Yes, return a true. So they're equal. That looks okay, but something is wrong. What is wrong? Okay, so you get the object. Stock manager. Stock contains the product. Oh. Stock contains the product. Stock contains calls equals. When contains calls equals, something is not right. Of course, something is not right. Does it contain it? Contains is not like the concept of contains is something, because equals looks okay. So something in contains is not being used properly. Contains. Returns true if this list contains the specified object. Returns true if it contains it. So I'm saying if it does not contain it, add it. Okay, so that concept is clear. So there's nothing wrong there. More formally, returns true if and only if this list contains at least one element E such that if O is null, it returns E equal to null. Else it returns O equals E. O equals E. Elements whose presence in the list is to be tested. It at least contains, if the list contains at least one element E such that O equals E, it looks right. But definitely something is wrong, right? If it looks right doesn't mean it is right. O equals E. If this list contains at least one element, O equals E. O is being passed, E is already present. O is being passed and E is already present. Yeah, it should work. Put your brains together, guys. More than one brain is better than one brain. What is not working properly? I've overridden it. I've said this will return a true. First element picked up, equals is called. Equals says, yeah, it is true. So if it is true, contains should be true, but it's not working. I don't know, I'll have to think.
So your ad product, I like have a different implementation. I don't start it different.
Our product is saying what are we adding to product? We're saying the product is null. Okay, so stock contains product. You're throwing an exception. Else you're adding it, right? So all I did was I put a not there, right?
Yeah.
I have the same thing on. But why? Like, you know, like what? Like you have your if else at different places. I made that a not there, right? You write it in else and I write it with not.
But your if is going to always trigger the new exception anyways, because you're not elsing it out. Should that be like an else for the new exception?
No, else, if that doesn't happen, else is not required to close it out.
Sure, but it's
Oh, I see. Oh, I see what you're meaning in this one. Oh, right, right. I see. Oh, yes, yes. Oh, yeah. Okay, I see what you're saying. You're saying that throw is always triggered. Oh, oh, right. Because I'm in the habit of writing my throws afterwards, I'm not paying attention. Perfect, right. See, oh, how silly can you be? There is nothing wrong here, like I can be. There is nothing wrong here. The only thing is that throw will always happen. Right? That throw will always happen. Oops. Okay. Okay. So the logic is okay, but of course, it's incorrect how I've written it. So I'm saying if it contains it, Control X. If it contains it, throw an exception. And if it doesn't throw an exception, we just want to add it. There is a difference. Yep, there is. Simple if, right? But something is wrong. Logic is wrong somewhere. So there it is. So because I usually write it, oh, I'll throw my exceptions afterwards, I didn't even bother to see that it will always be. Definitely logic was wrong. Thanks, Brian. Right? So changing it, it's not the luck that, oh, why does it work this way? Because my logic was wrong. So it says if it contains it, throw it. And if it doesn't contain it, add. Now we should be good. Oh, God. Sometimes it just doesn't work. So till now, of course, I have to stop it. It has to be stopped because it's time. But now we should be okay in this one at least. There. Right? So now where is this coming from? This is coming from find product by ID 1. Yeah, so of course this testing will have to go on till everything is tested. Maybe I completed and put it for you on Blackboard, but it is something that needs to be tested. And you will do the unit testing. So let me meter it up and everything and I'll give it to you, okay? Oh, thanks, Brian. I couldn't see it like, sorry? Oh, no way. No, it won't. Sometime on the weekend, I'll work on the weekend. You have to give it to you because it's week 9, right? So it should come by 10 so that I can do another one by 12. This is a very good right? So you the testing, so now you're doing that. And I said, yeah, so it should come this week, otherwise I'll get late for my next one. Okay, I have to stop here. Thank you for your patience. Oh, let me load this. Is there a class here? I don't know. That way I'll just load it, okay? That way you have it from me. I won't forget. So I'll go to your... So I'm giving you my new product. Not new, it's the old one, but that's what you have from me now. Okay, so let's add another one. Where are we? Summer. Did I make change in my Thursdays? Yes, I think I did. Oh, this is the old one. Where have I been making changes then? Don't tell me I've been doing them somewhere else. No. Okay, where have I been making changes? Product stock Thursday. Personal. Okay, for all the things. Okay.
Assignment we have to add and subtract patterns. So it makes it sound like other people's websites. Or something, I don't know.
Yeah, you build a website that anybody can log in, obviously, with this one, but create a user, you can come and add in, there's a list, and delete people. If I was silly, because like, you wouldn't be able to go in and change the number, like, with the one he wanted to do class, yes, you could. So that's what you had, and then you had your contact, where you could advertise
But
on the
it's
webpage.
simple building. That's a, that person, because all you have to do is that do a simple like if thing where if the user ID is equivalent to who they're trying to edit, or who, if it's not equal to who they are able to edit. So does that make sense?
No, there's a way to do it, I just didn't do it, because it wasn't required for the assignment, but I was like, that's kind of silly. If somebody could log in just to read your password.
How's your, Aminda, how's your tutoring going with Java?
Good,
Good? Making more sense?
yeah,
Good.
went over practical today with like more objects. Classes.
Is this Aaron McClister? What is his last name? Do you know his last name?
I don't know the last name.
I can recollect who he is. Like, I mean, there were a couple of Aarons in my class, but I don't know which one. Oh,
He's tall and has glasses and dark hair.
okay, so it's not the guy. And he's still in school.